out segment on this week of shows as you have joined the hottest conversation in terms of Alabama football. This is, in my own words, the podcast. Stephen M. Smith, Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Head coach Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide will be at the Omni Hotel in Atlanta, Georgia on next week for Southeastern Conference Media Day. Should be a fun, entertaining, crazy atmosphere. Expect a lot of questions, whether it's on quarterbacks, receivers, defense, new faces on the coaching staff. A lot of things will be thrown at Nick Saban, but he's used to this. He understands the media. He knows how the media is going to attack him with the questioning, and he's prepared to answer and give his own thoughts to those concerns and or questions. Joining Coach Saban will be the trio of running back Damian Harris, offensive lineman Ross Pierschbaker, and linebacker Anthony Jennings. Touchdown Alabama Magazine, yours truly, Stephen M. Smith. We will be down there on Wednesday checking out Saban and the guys he is bringing with him. So that's going to be a fun event. But getting into a topic that I teased at before the break, I wrote a story on last week on freshman punter Skyler Delong and how he could potentially have better numbers as a freshman than what J.K. Scott did and could have a better career than what J.K. Scott had. And a lot of people interacted highly with the story, left comments, left thoughts, which we appreciate that. And the way you can get involved with Touchdown Alabama Magazine, check out tdalabamamag.com. tdalabamamag.com, covering the Crimson Tide in a variety of ways. Practice recaps, game recaps, highlights, anything you want, recruiting, anything you want on the Alabama Crimson Tide, tdalabamamag.com. Check the site out, pick you up a subscription. But live interaction on the Skyler Delong piece, and I am not downplaying anything J.K. Scott did. He was a big-time playmaker, household name, marquee guy. He earned the right to be selected by the Green Bay Packers in this year's draft venue. If you look at his numbers, he became the first player in Alabama history. There have been a lot of guys that have come through the capstone, but J.K. Scott, first in Tide history to record 10,000 yards, 243 punts, 11,074 yards. Of his 243 attempts, he dropped 108 of them inside the opponent's 20-yard line. That is 44%. So on almost half his punts, he is forcing the opposition to drive the length of the field against a vaunted Alabama defense. J.K. Scott averaged 45.6 yards a punt in his career, should have won a Ray Guy Award at some point during his tenure, did not get one, and it's beyond me as to why he did not get one. But with all the good J.K. Scott did, and it was good, when you look at Skyler Delong, who's 6'4", just about the same height as J.K. Scott, Delong has two things that Scott did not have. Number one, Skyler Delong as a freshman, he comes into a team where Alabama knows the big guys on defense. Alabama knows the marquee guys on defense. And the fans know. You ask any coach on that staff, you ask any fan of this program, who are the marquee guys on defense, they will tell you Mack Wilson, Anthony Jennings, Christian Miller, Isaiah Buggs, Raekwon Davis, Dylan Moses, and Deontay Thompson. Alabama fans know who the leaders are for this year's team, and even with Terrell Lewis out for right now, they still know. Skyler Delong can enter this fall calm, cool, and collected, knowing that as long as I get good hang time on the punt, if I can angle my attempt, if I can angle the football at a spot to where I'm squeezing the return man, not allowing him much space, I'm controlling where he goes to on the field, I can trust my guys to fly down there, cover the ball, cover the kick, not allow any big-time plays on special teams. In terms of J.K. Scott, his freshman year in 2014, Alabama did not know who its defensive captains were. And this came at a time where C.J. Mosley graduated from the Crimson Tide, had moved on to the National Football League, leaving behind Trey DePriest, Reggie Ragland, Tanae Patrick, Adrian Hubbard, and Xavier Dixon. Good players, pretty good players, but none of these guys had that presence to where the moment they walked into a locker room, everybody else shuts up because they know that's the big dog. That's the head honcho. That's the one, we follow his lead. Wasn't anything like that. That's why J.K. Scott's freshman year, he was such a big-time unsung hero, basically the most valuable player, because in his mind, he knew, I can't afford to shank a punt. I can't afford to put my defense in a rough spot because on the defensive line, you don't know who are the pass rushers. Now, Xavier Dixon had a pretty good season. Adrian Hubbard didn't have the season that people expected him to have, but you didn't know who are the pass rushers. Reggie Ragland had to grow to be the big-time inside linebacker. He wasn't that at first. And then in the secondary, Cyrus Jones was still adjusting. Eddie Jackson was rushed back from an injury. Aside from Landon Collins, the secondary was bare bones. And on top of that, offensively, you had a first-year starting quarterback in Blake Sims, who was Mr. Team Player all the way. Blake came in 2010 as an athlete, played running back, wide receiver, scout team defensive back, backup quarterback, anything Nick Saban needed Blake to do, he did it. Blake Sims became a starter in 2014. So all of these things are running through J.K. Scott's mind. He's thinking, I can't afford to shank a punt. I can't afford to have a bad ball. I can't afford to not have my drops go correctly. I can't afford to have the ball go off the side of my foot. I got to boom the football because I can't have my defense in a rough spot to where the opposition has a short field. All of this is going through J.K. Scott's mind because defensively at that time, now of course, when J.K. became a sophomore in 2015, junior in 2016, and so forth, some of those guys on defense had developed into being monsters, into being leaders, into being primetime guys, but that came after the 2014 season, J.K.'s freshman year, in which he averaged 48 yards a punt, in which he had 31 of his 55 attempts, that's 56%, dropped inside the 20-yard line. He had to be the MVP before guys on defense started to emerge and make a name for themselves. It was high pressure on J.K. Scott as a freshman. Skyler Delong doesn't have to deal with that due to, you know, who the big-time leaders are on defense going into this upcoming season. So that's number one. You look at what Skyler Delong did in the A-Day game. He was pretty good. Wasn't bad. Had 10 punts, 6 of the 10, dropped inside for 20, had a long of 46 yards. Second reason as to why he could potentially have better freshman year, better career than J.K. Scott, look at the coach. I'm pretty sure every Alabama fan, or almost every Tide fan, has a healthy respect for Bobby Williams. Here is somebody that followed Nick Saban from Michigan State to the Miami Dolphins National Football League to the Alabama Crimson Tide. As a player at Purdue, Williams lined up at running back and defensive back. As a coach, he worked with running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and guys on special teams. He was Alabama's special teams coach from 2007 to 2015. And despite the good he was able to accomplish with guys like Lee Tiffin, Jeremy Shelley, P.J. Fitzgerald, Cody Mandel, Adam Griffith, J.K. Scott. Well, J.K. Scott was a man amongst boys anyway. The biggest knock on Williams was special teams was always the second position he coached. It wasn't primary. It was always Bobby Williams, running backs coach / special teams, wide receivers coach / special teams, tight ends coach / special teams. I mean, you see what I'm getting at here? Special teams was never primary for Bobby Williams. It was always secondary. It was always the second job title, the other job title. Didn't really put a lot of focus into the special teams. No offense to Coach Williams at all, but it was always that second job title for him. And when you look at Nick Saban and the type of guy that he is, he wants nothing on the back burner. He wants guys to have their respective roles as primary. Nothing takes a back seat. Nothing takes the back burner. You look at Michael Locksley, offensive coordinator, primary. You look at Josh Gaddis, wide receivers coach, primary. He will do some OC things too, but wide receivers coach, primary. You look at Dan Enos, primary quarterbacks coach. You look at Craig Kulagowski, primary defensive line coach. You look at Carl Scott, primary DB coach, primary. This is what they know. This is what they do. This is what they focus on. This is their specialty, their bread and butter, their gun in the holster. This is what they do. And for Bobby Williams, special teams was always the second job title. When I look at Jeff Banks, who will be coaching Skyler Delong, special teams is Banks' primary. This is what he does. This is why Nick Saban went out and hired him. He's been a punter since his playing days. The man punted for Washington State University, was a two-time All-Pac-10 punter. Matter of fact, his senior year, 1997, if I'm not mistaken, Jeff Banks averaged 43.4 yards a punt, helped the Cougars secure a 10-win season, 10-2, got to the Rose Bowl. Jeff Banks would then be an assistant coach on staff at Washington State from 1998 to 2000. From 2000 to 2003, he went to Idaho State, working with punters, kickers, running backs, but primarily punters and kickers. And then from 2004, to 2013, went to University of Texas, El Paso, working with punters and kickers. And then from 2013 to 2017, joined Kevin Sumlin's staff at Texas A&M, where he really burst on the scene. Took Shane Trapuka, Drew Kaiser, made them both All-American big-time punters. He took Josh Lambo, Daniel LaCamera, made both of those guys 80% field goal kickers. We know what happened with Christian Kirk. 6 career punt return touchdowns. He's in the National Football League. Oh, and let's not forget, Texas A&M blocked at least one kick in 5 games last season. When I was able to talk with my man Mark Passwaters, who covers Texas A&M for Rivals.com, if you missed that podcast, go to Touchdown Alabama Magazine YouTube, check out the archives, the conversation I had with Passwaters. He said the Crimson Tide has the best special teams coach in the country in Jeff Banks, and it's not even close. When you have a guy that has played the position of punter in high school and college and has coached that position a number of years, in college football, that's a huge asset to have. Skyler Delong coming in as a punter, he gets to learn from Jeff Banks, who was a punter himself at Washington State. He has coached that position for X number of years. He has had success at that position. And the big thing, special teams is primary. He doesn't put it on the back burner. He doesn't let it take a back seat. This is primary for Jeff Banks. Skyler Delong could potentially have a better freshman year than J.K. Scott. Probably better career due to the guys on defense. You know them. And number two, you got the coach and Jeff Banks. He's proven, proof is in the pudding, and he comes over to Alabama with the experience as a player and the experience as a coach. This should be very interesting moving forward. But that's my take on that. Ladies and gentlemen, great week of shows on this edition of In My Own Words. Got a chance to dive into the Terrell Lewis injury. Vondarius Cowan getting dismissed from the program. Hopefully, Terrell Lewis can recover strong. Vondarius Cowan can get his act together and go on to blossom, mature, be a big-time player. We also touched on the Las Vegas odds in terms of Tua Tagovailoa, where the Heisman is concerned. Alabama, where the college football playoff is concerned. Very interesting conversation there. And then we looked at Skyler Delong, J.K. Scott. J.K. Scott was great. J.K. Scott, legendary. But Skyler Delong could possibly have better freshman year, better overall career. We'll wait and see what happens. Folks, if you want the best in college football, in particular Alabama football, gotta check out Touchdown Alabama Magazine YouTube. Subscribe to the podcast, leave comments, subscribe to the website. Want to hear from you, your thoughts, your concerns, your questions on a team you enjoy, crave, want to watch every time they take the field, that being the Crimson Tide. Check out Touchdown Alabama Magazine YouTube. If you can't get the YouTube, full-on audio person, that's fine. Check out SoundCloud, TDAM SoundCloud, as I'm pumping out these podcasts 3 days a week. Gotta keep you, the fans, in the know. So 3 days a week, pumping these podcasts out. Once again, next week, Southeastern Conference Media Days on Wednesday. Touchdown Alabama Magazine, myself and the crew will be in Atlanta on Wednesday, getting Nick Saban, Damian Harris, Ross Pierschbaker, and Anthony Jennings. For all of us here at The Brand, I'm yours truly, Stephen M. Smith. Enjoy your weekend. Till next time, folks, it's In My Own Words. It's your boy, Stephen M. Smith, host of In My Own Words, the podcast. If you are a fan of this show, then I encourage you to subscribe to the Touchdown Alabama Magazine YouTube channel. Also follow the brand on Facebook, Twitter, and other forms of social media as we continue to bring you the best in Alabama football and Crimson Tide athletics.